Part 2 of चैप्टर ऑर्गेनाइज्ड प्लानिंग एंड लास्ट वीडियो में हमने यहाँ तक किया था पैसे तक बट वी विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम how times have changed. This is just the point I am trying to emphasize. Times have changed. Moreover, the change is reflected not merely in railroad offices or on streetcars, but in other walks of life as well. The public be damned policy is now facing. It has been supplanted by the "we are obligingly at your service, sir" policy. The bankers have learned a thing or two during this rapid change which has taken place during the past few years. Impoliteness on the part of a bank official or bank employee today is as rare as it was conspicuous a dozen years ago. In the years past, some bankers, not all of them, of course, carried an atmosphere of austerity, which gave every would be borrower a chill when he even thought of approaching his banker for a loan. Thousands of bank failures during the Depression had the effect of removing the mahogany doors behind which bankers formerly barricaded themselves. They now sit at desks in the open, where they may be seen and approached at will by any depositor or by anyone who wishes to see them, and the whole atmosphere of the bank is one of curiosity and understanding. It used to be customary for customers to have to stand and wait at the corner grocery until the clerks were through passing the time of day and with friends and the proprietor had finished making up his bank deposit before being waited upon. Chain stores managed by courtiers men who do everything in the way of service, short of shining the customer's shoes, have pushed the old time merchants into the background. Time marches on. Courtesy and service are the watchwords of merchandising today and apply to the person who is marketing personal service even more directly than to the employer whom he serves, because in the final analysis both the employer and his employee are employed by the public they serve. If they fail to serve well, they pay by the loss of their privilege of serving. We can all remember the time when the gas meter reader pounded on the door hard enough to break the panels. When the door was opened, he pushed his way in uninvited with a scowl of his face, which plainly said, "What the hell did a scroll on his face?" Which plainly said, "What the hell did you make me waiting for?" All that has undergone a change. The meterman now conducts himself as a gentleman who is delicate delighted to be at your service, sir. Before the gas companies learned that their scrolling metermen were accumulating liabilities never to be cleared away, the polite salesman of oil burners came along and did a land office business. During the Depression, I spent several months in the anthracite coal region of Pennsylvania, studying conditions which all but destroyed the coal industry. Among several very significant discoveries was the fact that greed on the part of operators and their employees was the chief cause of the loss of business for the operators and loss of jobs for the miners. Through the pressure of a group of overzealous labor leaders representing the employees and the greed for profits on the part of the operators, the anthracite business suddenly dwindled. The coal operators and their employees drove sharp bargains with one another, adding the cost of the bargain to the price of the coal, until finally they discovered they had built up a wonderful business for the manufacturers of oil conditions outfits and the producers of crude oil. The wages of sin is death. Many have read this in the Bible, but few have discovered its meaning. Now and for several years, the entire world has been listening by force to a sermon which might well be called "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Nothing as widespread and effective as the Depression could possibly be just a coincidence. Behind the depression was a cause. Nothing ever happens without a cause. In the main, the cause of the depression is traceable directly to the worldwide habit of trying to reap without sowing. This should not be mistaken to mean that the depression represents a crop which the world is being forced to reap without having sown. The trouble is that the world sowed the wrong sort of seed. Any farmer knows he cannot sow the seed of thirst and reap a harvest of grain. Beginning at the outbreak of the World War, the people of the world began to sow the seed of service, inadequate in both quality and quantity. Nearly everyone was engaged in the pastime of trying to get without giving. These illustrations are brought to the attention of those who have personal services to market to show that we are where we are and what we are because of our own conduct. If there is a principle of cause and effect which controls business, finance, and transportation, this same principle controls individuals and determines their economic status. What is your QQS rating? The causes of success in marketing services effectively and permanently have been clearly described unless those causes are studied, analyzed, understood, and applied. No man can market his services effectively and permanently. Every person must be his own salesman of personal services. The quality and the quantity of service rendered and the spirit in which it is rendered determine to a large extent in the price and the duration of employment. To market personal services effectively, which means a permanent market at its satisfactory price, under pleasant condition, one must adopt and follow the QQS formula, which means that quality plus quantity plus the proper spirit of cooperation equals perfect salesmanship of service. Remember the QQS formula, but do not apply it as a habit. But do more. Apply it as a habit. Yep. Let us analyze the formula to make sure we understand exactly what it means. Quality of service shall be construed to mean the performance of every detail in connection with your position in the most efficient manner possible, with the object of greater efficiency always in mind. Quantity of service shall be understood to mean the habit of rendering all the service of which you are capable at all time with the purpose of increasing the amount of service rendered as great skill is developed through practice and experience. Emphasis is again placed on the word habit. Spirit of service shall be construed to mean the habit of agreeable, harmonious conduct which will induce cooperation from associations and fellow employees. Adequacy of quality and quantity of service is not sufficient to maintain a permanent market for your services. The conduct or the spirit in which you deliver services is a strong determining factor in connection with both the price you receive and the duration of employment. Andrew Carnegie stressed this point more than others in connection with his description of the factor which lead to success in the marketing of the personal services. He emphasized again and again the necessity for harmonious conduct. He stressed the fact that he would not retain any man, no matter how great a quantity or how efficient the quality of his work, unless he worked in a spirit of harmony. Mr. Carnegie instead insisted upon man being agreeable. To prove that he placed a high value upon his quality, he permitted many men who conformed to his standards to become very wealthy. Those who did not conform had to make had to make room for others. Oh, those who did not conform had to make room for others. Hmm. The importance of a pleasing personality has been stressed because it is a factor which enables one to render service in the proper spirit. If one has a personality which pleases and renders services in a spirit of harmony, these assets often make up for deficiencies in both the quality and the quantity of service one renders. Nothing, however, can be successfully substituted for pleasing conduct. The capital value of your services, the person whose income is derived entirely from the sale of personal services is no less a merchant than the man who sells commodities. And it might well be added, such a person is subject to exactly the same rules of conduct as the merchant who sells merchandise. This has been emphasized because of the majority of people who live by the sale of personal services make the mistake of considering themselves free from the rules of conduct and the responsibilities attached to those who are engaged in marketing commodities. The new way of marketing services are practically forced both employer and employee into partnership alliances through which both take into consideration the right of the third party, the public they serve. The day of the go-getter has passed. He has been supplanted by the go-giver. High pressure methods in business finally blew the lid off. There will never be the need to put the lid back on because in the future business will be conducted by methods that will require no pressure. The actual capital value of your brains may be determined by the amount of income you can produce. By marketing your services, a fair estimate of the capital value of your services may be made by multiplying your annual income by 16 and two-thirds. As it is reasonable to estimate that your annual income represents 6% of your capital value, money rents for 6% per annum. Money is worth no more than brains. It is often worth much less. Money is worth no more than brains. Competent brains, if effectively marketed, represent a much more desirable form of capital than that which is required to conduct a business dealing in commodities because brains are a form of capital which cannot be permanently depreciated through depressions. Nor can this form of capital be stolen or spent. Moreover, the money which is essential for the conduct of business is as worthless as a sand dune until it has been mixed with efficient brains. The third, 30 major causes of failure. How many of these are holding you back? Life's greatest tragedy consists of men and women who earnestly try and fail. The tragedy lies in the overwhelming large majority of people who fail as compared to the few who succeed. I have had the privilege of analyzing several thousand men and women, 98% of whom were classed as failures. There is something radically wrong with a civilization and a system of education which permit 98% of the people to go through life as failures. But I did not write this book for the purpose of moralizing on the rights and wrongs of the world. That would require a book 100 times the size of this one. My analysis work proved that there are 30 major reasons for failure and 13 major principles through which people accumulate fortunes. In this chapter, a description of the 30 major causes of failure will be given. As you go over the list, check yourself by it point by point for the purpose of discovering how many of these causes of failure stand between you and success. Unfavorable heredity background. There is a but little, if anything, which can be done for people who are born with a deficiency in brain power. This philosophy offers but one method to bridging this weakness through the aid of the mastermind. Observe with profit, however, that this is the only one of the 30 causes of failure which may not be easily corrected by any individual. Lack of a well-defined purpose in life. There is no hope of success for the person who does not have a central purpose or definite goal at which to aim. 98 out of every 100 of those whom I have analyzed has no such aim. Perhaps this was the major cause of their failure. Major cause of their failure: lack of a well defined purpose in life. There is no hope of success. Lack of ambition to aim about mediocrity. We offer no hope for the person who is so indifferent as not to want to get ahead in life and who is not willing to pay the price. Insufficient education. This is a handicap which may be overcome with comparative ease. Experience has proven that the best educated people are often those who are known as self made or self educated. It takes more than a college degree to make one a person of education. Any person who is educated in one who has learned to get whatever he wants in life without violating the rights of others. Education consists not so much of knowledge but of knowledge effectively and persistently applied. Men are paid not merely for what they know, but more particularly for what they do with that which they know. What they do with that which they know. Lack of self-discipline. Discipline comes through lack self-control. Discipline. This means that one must control all negative qualities. Before you can control condition, you must first control yourself. First, control yourself. Self mastery is the hardest job you will ever tackle. If you do not conquer yourself, you will be conquered by self. You may see at one and the same time both your best friend and your greatest enemy by stepping in front of a mirror. Ill health. No person may enjoy outstanding success without good health. Many of the causes of ill health are the subject to mastery and control. These, in the main, are overeating of foods not conducive to health, wrong habits of thought giving expression to negatives, wrong use of and overindulge in sex, lack of proper physical exercise, an inadequate supply of fresh air due to improper breathing, unfavorable environment influences during childhood. As the twig is bent, so shall the tree grow. Most people who have criminal tendencies acquire them as the result of bad environment and improper associates during childhood. Procrastination, this is one of the most common causes of failure. One man procrastination stands within the shadow of every human being, waiting his opportunity to spoil one's chances of success. Most of us go through life as failure because we are waiting for the time to be right to start doing something worthwhile. Do not wait, the time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along. Lack of persistence. Most of us are good starters but poor finishers of everything we begin. Moreover, those are prone to give up at the first sign of defeat. There is no substitute for persistence. The person who makes persistent his watchword discovers that old man failure finally becomes tired and makes his departure. Failure cannot cope with persistent negative personality. There is no hope of success for the person who repels people through a negative personality. Success comes through the application of power, and the power is attained through the cooperative efforts of other people. A negative personality will not induce cooperation. Lack of controlled sexual urge. Sex energy is the most powerful of all the stimuli which move people into action because it is the most powerful of the emotions. It must be controlled through transmutation and converted into other channels. Uncontrolled desire for something for nothing. The gambling instinct desire drives millions of people to failure. Evidence of this may be found in study of the Wall Street crash of 29, during which millions of people tried to make money by gambling on stock margins. Lack of a well defined power of decision. Men who succeed reach decisions promptly and change them, if at all, very slowly. Men who fail reach decisions in, if at all, very slowly and change them frequently and quickly. Indecision and procrastination are twin brothers, where one is found and the other may usually be found also. Kill off this pair before they completely hog tie you to the treadmill of failure. One or more of the six basic fears. These fears have been analyzed for you in a later chapter. They must be mastered before you can market your services effectively. Wrong selection of a mate in marriage. This is the most common cause of failure. The relationship of a marriage brings people intimately into contact. Unless this relationship is harmonious, failure is likely to follow. Moreover, it will be a form of failure that is marked by misery and unhappiness, destroying all signs of ambition. Our question: the person who takes no chances generally has to take whatever is left, when others are through choosing. Over quotation is as bad as under caution. Both are extremes to be guarded against. Life itself is filled with the elements of chance. Wrong selection of associates in business. This is one of the most common causes of failure in business. In marketing personal services, one should use great care to select an employer who will be an inspiration and who is himself intelligent and successful. We emulate those with whom we associate most closely. Pick an employer who is worth emulating. Superstition and prejudice. Superstition is a form of fear. It is also a sign of ignorance. Men who succeed keep open minds and are afraid of nothing. Wrong selection of a vocation. No man can succeed in a line of endeavor which he does not like. The most essential step in the marketing of personal services is that of selecting an occupation into which you can throw yourself wholeheartedly. Lack of concentration of effort. The jack of all trades seldom is good at any. Concentrate all of your efforts on one definite chief aim. The habit of indiscriminate spending. The spend theft cannot succeed mainly because of the hands eternally in fear of poverty. Form the habit of systematic saving by putting aside a definite percentage of your income money in the bank. Gives one a very safe foundation of courage when bargaining for the sale of personal services. Without money, one must take what one is offered and be glad to get it. Lack of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be convincing. Moreover, enthusiasm is contagious, and the person who has it under control is generally welcome in any group of people. Intolerance. The person with a closed mind on any subject seldom gets ahead. Intolerance means that one has stopped acquiring knowledge. The most damaging form of intolerance are those connected with religious, racial, and political differences of opinion. Intemperance. The most damaging forms of intemperance are connected with eating, strong drink, and sexual activities. Overindulgence is any of these is fatal to success. Inability to cooperate with others. More people lose their position and their big opportunities in life because of this fault than for all other reasons combined. It is a fault which no well informed businessman or leader will tolerate. Possessions of power that was not acquired through self effort. Sons and daughters of wealthy men and others who inherited money which they did not earn. Power is in the hands of one who did not acquire it gradually is often fatal to success. Quick riches are more dangerous than poverty. Quick riches are more dangerous than poverty. Intentional dishonesty. This is no substitute for honesty. There is no substitute for honesty. One may be temporarily dishonest by the force of circumstances over which one has no control without permanent damage. But there is no hope for the person who is dishonest by choice. Sooner or later, his deeds will catch up with him and he will pay by loss of reputation and perhaps even loss of liberty. Egoism and vanity. These qualities serve as red lights which warn others to keep away. They are fatal to success. Ego. They are fatal to success. Ego. Guessing instead of thinking. Most people are too indifferent or lazy to acquire facts with which to think accurately. They prefer to act on opinions created by guesswork or snap judgments. Lack of capital. This is a common cause of failure among those who start out in business for the first time without sufficient reserve of capital to absorb the shock of their mistakes and to carry them over until they have established a reputation. Under this, name any particular cause of failure from which you have suffered that has not been included in the foregoing list. In these 30 major causes of failure is found a description of the tragedy of life, which obtains for particularly every person who tries and fails. It will be helpful if you can induce someone who knows you will to go over this list with you and help to analyze you by 30 causes of failure. It may be beneficial if you try this alone. Most people cannot see themselves as others see them. You may be one who cannot. Most people cannot see themselves as others see them. The oldest of admonitions is man. Know them thyself. If you market merchandise successfully, you must know the merchandise. The same is true in marketing personal services. You should know all of your weaknesses in order that you may either bridge them or eliminate them entirely. You should know your strength in order that you may call attention to it when selling your services. You can know yourself only through accurate analysis. The folly of ignorance in connection with self was displayed by a young man who applied to the manager of a well-known business for a position. He made a very good impression until the manager asked him what salary he expected. He replied that he had no fixed sum in mind, lack of a definite aim. The manager then said, "We will pay you all you are worth after we try to out for a week." "I will not accept it," the applicant replied, "because I am getting more than that where I am now employed." Before you even start to negotiate for a readjustment of your salary in your present position or to seek employment elsewhere, be sure that you are worth more than you now receive. It is one thing to want money, everyone wants more, but it is something entirely different to be worth more. Many people mistake their wants for their just dues. Your financial requirement or wants have nothing whatever to do with your worth. Your value is established entirely by your ability to render useful services or your capacity to induce others to render such services. Take inventory of yourself. 28 questions you should answer. Annual self analysis is an essential in the effective marketing of personal services, as in annual inventory in merchandising. Moreover, the yearly analysis should disclose a decrease in faults and as increase in virtues. One goes ahead still, stands still, or goes backward in life. One's object should be, of course, to go ahead. Annual self analysis will disclose whether advancement has been made and if so, how much. If you also disclose any backward steps one may have made, the effective marketing of personal services require one to move forward even if the progress is slow. Your annual self analysis should be made at the end of each year, so you can include in your new year's resolution any improvements which the analysis indicates should be made. Take this inventory by asking yourself the following questions and by checking your answers with the aid of someone who will not permit you to deceive yourself as to their accuracy. Self-analysis questionnaire for personal inventory. Have I attended the goal which I established as my objective for this year? You should work with a definite, definite yearly objective to be attained as a part of your major life objective. Have I? Oh wait, these are questions I have to answer them. Have I attained the goal which I established as my objective for this year? In 2024, I have not done. No, 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 no. First, no. Have I delivered service of the best possible quality of which I was capable? No. Or could I have improved any part of the service? Yes, I have improved, but not as of which I was capable. Third, have I delivered service in the greatest possible quantity of which I was capable? No. Has the spirit of my conduct been harmonious and cooperative of all times? Has the spirit of my conduct been harmonious and cooperative at all time? What does it mean? Have I permitted the habit of procrastination to decrease my efficiency, and if so, to what extent? Uh, I am correct here, but I have not done any procrastination. No. So I think this is my right answer. Have I improved my personality, and if so, in what ways? I have improved my personality. in many ways, like communicating with anyone very frankly. Have I been persistent in following my plans through to completion? Have I been persistent in following my plans through to completion? Have I reached a decision promptly and definitely on all occasions? Decisions. Have I permitted any one of more than six basic fears to decrease my efficiency? Question 10. Have I been either overcautious or undercautious? I am in this condition. Overcautious. Courteous. Has my relationship with my associates in work been pleasant? Pleasant क्या? Pleasant or unpleasant? If it has been unpleasant, has the fault been partially or wholly mine? I think before 1.5 or 2 years, it was unpleasant, but now it might be pleasant. And before 2 years, it's because of only me. The another person always tries to talk to me, but I deny. But at this time, today, in 2025, I can talk to anyone. Yeah. 12. Question number 12. Have I dissipated any of my energy through lack of concentration or effort? Concentration of effort. Concentration. I concentrate on things very easily. Yep. Have I been open minded and tolerate in connections with all subjects? Yeah, I am open minded. In what way have I improved my ability to render service? Service? I don't know. Have I been intemperated in any of my habits? Yeah, in doing exercises. Have I expressed either openly or secretly any form of egotism? Yeah, I have ego show, and it's a very bad habit. Has my conduct toward my associates been such that it has induced them to respect me? Yup. Have my opinion and decisions has been based upon guesswork or accuracy of analysis and thought? Have I followed the habit of budgeting my time, my expenses, and my income? And have I been conservative in these budgets? How many time have I devoted to unprofitable effort which I might have used to better advantage? Hmm. How many I rebudget my time and change my habits so I will more efficient toward the coming year, during the coming in this year 2025. In this year 2025, I will do more than 20 books. At least 20 books will be done on सोशल मीडिया या ऐसे ही रिकॉर्ड करके डालूंगा जैसे अब चल रहे हैं पार्ट, अगर ज़्यादा बड़ा चैप्टर है तो पार्ट 1 पार्ट 2, वरना पूरा चैप्टर एक वीडियो में, और प्लेलिस्ट बना के डालूंगा। आप कभी भी जाके देख सकते हैं, उनको अच्छे से पढ़ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, सुन सकते हैं, मज़ा आएगा। Have I been guilty of any conduct which was not approved by my conscience? In what ways have I rendered more service and better service than I was paid to render? Have I been unfair to anyone, and if so, in what way? Unfair. Mm, If I had been the purchaser of my own service for the year, would I be satisfied with my purchase? Am I in right vocation, and if not, why not? Has the purchaser of my service been satisfied with the service I have rendered, and if not, why not? What is my present rating on the fundamental principles of success? Make this rating fairly and frankly, and have it checked by someone who is courageous enough to do it accurately. Having read and assimilated the information conveyed through this chapter, You are now ready to create a practical plan for marketing your personal services. In this chapter will be found an adequate description of every principle essential in planning the sale of personal services, including of the major attribute of leadership. The most common causes of failure in leadership, a description of the fields of opportunity for leadership, the main causes of failure in all walks of life, and the important questions which should be used in self analysis. This extensive and detailed presentation of accurate information has been included because it will be needed by all who must begin the accumulation of riches by marketing personal services, those who have lost their fortunes and those who are just beginning to earn money have nothing but personal services to offer in return for riches. Therefore, it is essential that they have available the practical information needed to market services to best advantage. The information contained in this chapter will be of great value to all who aspire to attain leadership in any calling. It will be particularly helpful to those aiming to market their services as business or industrial executives. Complete assimilation and understanding of the information here conveyed will be helpful in marketing one's own service, and it will also help one to become more analytical and capable of judging people. The information will be priceless to personnel directors, employment management managers, and other executives charged with the selection of employees and the maintenance of efficient organizations. If you doubt this statement, test its soundness by answering in writing the 28 self-analysis questions that might be both interesting and profitable even though you do not doubt the soundness of the statement. Where and how one may find opportunities to accumulate riches. Now that we have analyzed the principles by which riches may be accumulated, we naturally ask where may one find favorable opportunities to apply these principles. Very well, let us take inventory and see what USA offer the person seeking riches, great or small. To begin with, let us remember क्या है To begin with, let us remember, all of us, that we live in a country where every law abiding citizen enjoys freedom of thought and freedom of deed unequaled anywhere in the world. Most of us have never taken inventory of the advantages of this freedom. We have never compared our unlimited freedom with the curtailed freedom in other countries. Here we have freedom of thought, freedom in the choice and enjoyment of education, freedom in religion, freedom in politics, freedom in the choice of a business, profession, or occupation, freedom to accumulate and own without molestation. All the property we can accumulate, freedom to choose our place of residence, freedom in marriage, freedom through equal opportunities to all races, freedom of travel from one state to another, freedom in our choices of food, and freedom to aim for any station in life for which we have prepared ourselves, even for the presidency of the US. We have other forms of freedom, but this list will give a bird's eye view of the most important, which constitute opportunity of the highest order. This advantage of freedom is all the more conspicuous because the US is the only country guaranteeing to every citizen, whether native born or naturalized, so broad and varied a list of freedom. Next, let us recount some of the blessings which our widespread freedom has placed within our hands. Take the average American family, for example, meaning the family of average income, and some of the benefits available to every member of the family in this land of opportunity and plenty. A food. Next to freedom of thought and deed comes food, clothing, shelter. The three basic necessities of life, because of our universal freedom, the average American family has available at its very door. Choicest selection of food to be found everywhere, anywhere in the world, and at prices within its financial range. एक दो तीन चार पाँच छः सात 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 nearby half an hour more. A family of two living in the heart of Times Square district of New York City far removed from the source of production of food, took careful inventory of the cost of a simple breakfast with this astonishing result. Article of food cost at the breakfast table. Grapefruit juice from Florida, point 2. These are the grand total, point 20. What should I do with this? Nothing. I will skip this. It is not very difficult to obtain food in a country where two people can have breakfast consisting of all they want or need for a dime a spice a piece. Observe that this simple breakfast was gathered by some strange from the magic caution mark from China, South America, Ataha, Kanhas, and the New England states and delivered on the breakfast table, ready for consumption in the very heart of the most crowded city in America, at a cost well within the means of the most humble laborer. The cost included all federal, state, and city taxes. Here is a fact the politician did not mention when they were crying out to the voters to throw their opponents out of office because the people were being taxed to death. Shelter. This family lives in a comfortable apartment, heated by steam, lighted with electricity with gas for cooking. All for $65 a month. In a smaller city, a more sparsely settled part of New York City, the same apparent apartment could be had for as low as $20 a month. The toast they had for breakfast in the food estimate was toasted on an electrical toaster, which cost but a few dollars. The apartment is cleaned with a vacuum sweeper that is run by electricity. Hot and cold water is available at all time in the kitchen and the bathroom. The food is kept cool in refrigerator that is run by electricity. The wife curls her hair, washes her clothes, and irons them with easily operated electrical equipment on powers obtained by sticking a plug in the wall. The husband shaves with an electrical shaver, and they receives entertainment from all over the world 24 hours a day. If they want it without cost by merely turning the dial of the radio. There are other conveniences in this apartment by the foregoing list will give a fair idea of some of the concrete evidences of the freedom we of America enjoy, and this is neither political nor economic propaganda. C. Clothing. Anywhere in the US, the woman of average clothing requirement can dress very comfortably nearly for less than $200 a year. The average man can dress for the same or less. Only the three basic necessities of food, clothing, shelter have been mentioned. The average American citizen has other privileges and advantages available in return for modest effort not exceeding 8 hours per day of labor. Among there is the privilege of automobile transportation with which one can go and come at will. At very small cost, the average American has security of property rights not found in any other country in the world. He can place his surplus money in bank with the assurance that his government will protect it and make good to him if the bank fails. If an American citizen wants to travel from one state to another, he needs no passport, no one's permission. He may go when he pleases and return at will. Moreover, he may travel by train, private automobile, bus, airplane, or ship, or as his pocketbook permits. In Germany, Russia, Italy, and most of the other European Oriental countries, the people cannot travel with so much freedom and at so little cost. The miracle that has provided these blessings. We often hear politics proclaiming the freedom of the America when they solicit votes, but seldom do not take the time or devote sufficient efforts to the analysis of the source or nature of this freedom, having no axe to grind, no grudge to express, no ulterior motives to be carried out. But I have the privilege of going into a frank analysis of that mysterious, abstract, greatly misunderstood something which gives to every citizen of America more blessing, more opportunities to accumulate wealth, more freedom of every nature than may be found in any other country. I have the right to analyze the source and nature of this unseen power because I know and have known for more than a quarter of a century many of men who organized that power and many who are not responsible for its maintenance. The name of this mysterious benefactor of mankind is capital. Capital consists not only money but more particularly of highly organized intelligent group of men who plan ways and means of using money efficiently for the good of the public and profitable by themselves. These groups consist of scientists, educators, chemists, inventors, business analysts, publicity men, transportation experts, accountants, lawyers, doctors, and both men and women who have highly specialized knowledge in all fields of industry and business. They pioneer, experiment, and blaze trails in new fields of endeavor. They support colleges, hospitals, public schools, build good roads, publish newspaper, pay most of the cost of government, and take care of multitudinous detail essential to human progress. Stated briefly, the capitalists are the brains of civilization because they supply the entire fabric of which all education, enlightenment, and human progress consist. Money without brains always is dangerous. Mm. Money without brain is always dangerous. Properly used, it is the most important essential of civilization. The simple breakfast here described could not have been delivered to the New York family at a dime each or at any other price if organized capital had not provided the machinery, the ships, the railroads, and the huge armies of trained men to operate them. Some slight idea of the importance of organized capital may be had by trying to imagine yourself burdened with the responsibility of collecting without the aid of capital and delivering to the New York City's families the simple breakfast described. To supply the tea, you would have to make a trip to China or India, both a very long way from America. Unless you are an excellent swimmer, you would become rather tired before making the round trip. Then, too, another problem would confront you. That would you use money, even if you had the physical endurance to swim the ocean. To supply the sugar, you would have to take another long swim to Cuba, or a long way walk to the sugar beet section of Utah. But even then, you might come back without the sugar because organized effort and money are necessary to produce sugar, to say nothing of what is required to refine, transport, and deliver it to the breakfast table everywhere, anywhere in the US. The eggs you could deliver easily from enough from the barn yards near New York City, but you would have a very long walk to Florida and return before you could serve the two glasses of grapefruit juice. You could have walked another long walk to Kansas, one of the other wheat growing states. When you went after the four slices of the wheat bread, the rippled wheat biscuit would have to be omitted from the menu because they would not be available except through the labor of a trained organization of men and suitable machinery, all of which call for capital. While resting, you could take off for another little swim down to South America, where you would pick up a couple of bananas on your return. You could take a short walk to the nearest farm having a dairy and pick up some butter and cream. Then your New York City family would be ready to sit down and enjoy breakfast and you could collect your two dimes for your labor. Seems absurd, doesn't it? Well, the procedure described would be the only possible way these principal items of food could be delivered to the heart of New York City. If we had no capitalist system, the sum of money required for building and maintenance of the railroads and steam ships used in the delivery of that simple breakfast is so huge that it staggers one's imagination. It runs into hundreds of millions of dollars, not to mention the armies of trained employees required to man the ship and trains. But transportation is only a part of the requirements of modern civilization in capitalist America. Before there can be anything to haul, something must be grown from the ground or manufactured and prepared for market. This call this calls for more million of dollars for equipment, machinery, boxing, marketing, and for the wages of millions of men and women. Steamships and railroads do not spring up from the earth and function automatically. They come in response to the call of civilization through the labor and ingenuity and organizing ability of men who have imagination, faith, atheism, decision, persistent. These men are known as capitalists. They are motivated by the desire to build, construct, achieve, render useful service, earn profit, and accumulate riches. And because they render service without which there would be no civilization, they put themselves in the way of great riches. Just to keep the record simple and understandable, I will add that these capitalists are the same men whom most of us have heard soapbox orator speak. They are the same meant to warm radicals, racketeurs, dishonest politicians, and grafting labor leaders refer to the predatory interests or Wall Streets. I am not attempting to present a brief for or against any group of men or any system of economies. I am not attempting to condemn collective bargaining when I refer to grafting labor leaders, nor do I aim to give a clean bill of health to all individuals known as capitalists. The purpose of this book, a purpose to which I have faithfully devoted over a quarter of a century, is to present to all who want the knowledge the most dependable philosophy through which individuals may accumulate riches in whatever amounts they desire. I have here analyzed the economic advantages of the capitalist system for the twofold purpose of showing that all who seek riches must recognize and adapt themselves to the system that controls all approaches to fortunes, large or small. To present the side of the picture opposite to that being shown by politicians and demagogues who deliberately cloud the issues they bring up by referring to organized capital as if it were something poisonous. This is a capitalist country. It was developed through the use of capital, and we who claim the right to partake of the blessing of freedom and opportunity. We who seek to accumulate riches here may as well know that neither riches nor opportunity would be available to us if organized capital had not provided these benefits. For more than 20 years, it has been a somewhat popular and growing pastime for radicals, self-seeking politicians, racketeurs, crooked labor leaders, or and on occasion religious leaders to take pot shots at Wall Street, the money changers, and big businesses. The practice became so general that we witnessed during the business depression the unbelievable sight of high government officials leaning up with the chief politicians and the labor leaders with the openly avowed purpose of throttling the system which has made industrial America the richest country on earth. The line-up was so general and so well organized that it prolonged the worst depression America has ever known. It cost millions of men their jobs because those jobs were inseparable a part of the industrialist and a capitalist system which formed the very backbone of the nation. During this unusual alliance of government officials and self seeking individuals who were endeavoring to profit by declaring open season on the American system of industry, certain type of labor leader joined forces with the politicians and offered to deliver voters in return for legislation designed to permit men to take riches away from industry by organized force of numbers instead of the better method of giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Millions of men and women throughout the nation are still engaged in this popular pastime of trying to get without giving. Some of them are lined up with labor union where they demand shorter hours and more pay. Others do not take the trouble to work at all. They demand government relief and are getting it. Their idea of their right of freedom was demonstrated in the New York City, where violent complaints were registered with the postmaster by a group of relief beneficiaries because the postman awakened them at 7:30 a.m. To deliver government relief checks, they demanded that the time for delivery be set up to 10 o'clock. If you are one of those who believe that riches can be accumulated by accumulated by the mere act of men who organize themselves into groups and demand more pay for less service. If you are one of those who demand government relief without early morning disturbance when the money is delivered to you, if you are one of those who believe in trading their votes to politicians in return for the passing of laws which permits the raiding of the public treasury, you may rest securely on your belief with certain knowledge that no one will disturb you, because this is a free country where every man may think as he pleases, where nearly everybody can live with but little effort, where many may live but without doing any work whatsoever. However, you should know the full truth concerning this freedom, of which so many people boast and so few understand, as great as it is, as far as it reaches, as many privileges as it provides. It does not and cannot bring riches without effort. There is but one dependable method of accumulating and legitimizing holding riches, and that is by rendering useful services. No system has ever been created by which man can legally acquire riches through mere force of numbers or giving, without giving in return an equivalent value of one form or another. There is a principle known as the law of economics. There is more than a theory. It is a law no man can beat. Mark well the name of the principle and remember it, because it is far more powerful than all the politicians and political machines. It is above and beyond the control of all the labor unions. It cannot be swayed, nor influenced, nor bribed by recruiters or self appointed leaders in any calling. More over, it has an all seeing eye and a perfect system of bookkeeping, in which it keeps an accurate account of the transaction of every human being engaged in the business of trying to get without giving. Sooner or later, its auditors come around, look over the records of individuals, both great and small, and demand an accounting. Wall Street, big business, capital predatory interest, or whatever name you choose to give the system which has given us American freedom, presents represent a group of men who understand, respect, and adapt themselves to this powerful law of economics. Their financial continuation depends upon their respecting of the law. Most people living in America leave this country, its capitalist system, and all. I must confess, I know of no better country where one may find greater opportunities to accumulate riches judging by their acts and deeds. There are some in this country who do not like it. That all of course is their privilege if they do not like this country, its capitalistic system, its boundless opportunities. They have the privilege of clearing out. Always there are other countries such as Germany, Russia, and Italy, where one may try one's hand at enjoying freedom and accumulating riches, providing one is not too particular. America provides all the freedom and all the opportunity to accumulate riches that any honest person may require. When one goes hunting for game, one selects hunting grounds where game is plentiful. When seeking riches, the same rule would naturally obtain. If it is riches, oh, if it is riches you are seeking, do not overlook the possibilities of a country whose citizens are so rich that women alone spend over $200 million annually for lipstick, rogue, and cosmetics. Think twice, you who are seeking riches, before trying to destroy the capitalist system of a country whose citizens spend over $50 million a year for greeting cards, for which to express their appreciations of their freedom. If it is money you are seeking, consider carefully a country that spends hundreds of millions of dollars annually for cigarettes, the bulk of the income from which goes to only four major companies engaged in supplying this national builder of non-challenged and quit nerves. By all means, give plenty of consideration to a country whose people spend annually more than $50 million for the privilege of seeing moving pictures and toss in a few additional millions for liquor, narcotics, and other less potent soft drinks and giggle waters. Do not be in too big a hurry to get away from a country whose people willingly, even eagerly, hand over millions of dollars annually for football, baseball, and prize fights. and by all means stick by a country whose inhabitants give up more than $1 million a year for chewing gum and another million for safety razor blades. Remember also this that this is but the beginning of available sources for the accumulation of wealth. Only a few of the luxuries and non essentials have been mentioned. But remember that the business of producing, transporting, and marketing these few items of merchandise gives regular employment to many millions of men and women who receive for their service many millions of dollars monthly and spend it freely for both the luxuries and the necessities. Especially remember that back of all this exchange of merchandise and personal services may be found an abundance of opportunity to accumulate riches. Here, our American freedom comes to one's aid. There is nothing to stop you or anyone from engaging in any portion of the effort necessary to carry on these businesses. If one has superior talent, training, experience, one may accumulate riches in large amounts. Those not so fortunate may accumulate smaller amount. Anyone may earn a living in return for a very nominal amount of labor. So there you are. Opportunity has spread into wares before you. Step up to the front, select what you want, create your plan, put the plan into action, and follow through with persistent. Capitalistic America will do the rest. You can depend upon this much. Capitalistic America ensures every person the opportunity to the render useful services and to collect riches in proportion to the value of the service. The system denies no one this right, but it does not and cannot promise something for nothing, because the system itself is irrevocably controlled by the law of economics, which neither recognizes but not nor tolerates for long. Getting without giving. The law of economics was passed by nature. There is no Supreme Court to which violators of this law may appeal. The law hands out both penalties for its violation and appropriate rewards for its observance without interference or the possibility of interference by any human being. The law cannot be repealed. It is as fixed as the stars in the heavens and subject to end, a part of the same system that controls the star. May one refuse to adapt oneself to the laws of economics? Certainly, this is a freely country where all men are born with equal rights, including the privilege of ignoring the law of economics. What happens then? Well, nothing happens until large numbers of men join forces for the avowed purpose of ignoring the law and taking what they want by force. Then comes the dictator, which with well organized firing squads and machine guns. We have not yet reached that stage in America, but we have heard all we want to know about how the system works. Perhaps we shall be fortunate enough not to demand personal knowledge of so gruesome a reality. Doubtless, we shall prefer to continue with our freedom of speech, freedom of deed, freedom to render useful services in return for riches, the practice by government officials of extending to men and women the privilege of raiding the public treasury in return for votes sometimes results in election, but as night follows day and final payoffs comes when every penny wrongfully used must be repaid with compound interest on compound interest. If those who make the grab are not forced to repay, the burden falls on their children and their children's children, even unto the third and fourth generation. There is no way to avoid the debt. Avoid the debt. Men can and sometimes do form themselves into groups for the purpose of crowding wages up and working hours down. There is a point beyond which they cannot go. It is the point at which the law of economics steps in and the sheriff gets both the employer and the employee. For 6 years, for from 1929 to 1935, the people of America, both rich and poor, barely missed seeing the old man economics hand over to the sheriff all the business and industrialists and the banks. It was not a pretty sight. It did not increase our respect for mob psychology, through which one man cast reason to the winds and start trying to get without giving. We who went through those 6 discouraging years when fear was in the saddle and faith was on the ground cannot forget how ruthlessly the law of economics exacted its toll from both rich and poor, weak and strong, old and young. We shall not wish to go through another such experience. These observations are not founded upon short time experience, they are the result of 25 years of careful analysis of the methods of both the most successful and the most unsuccessful men known America has known. Yeah, we have done chapter 6, the longest chapter. Chapter 6 from page number 122 to 177. 177, 122, 123, 122, 176, 177. And the same chapter, organized planning. Organized planning. Chapter 6 is, I think, most longest chapter. See the difference. Thank you.